The Rama Ravana War. On seeing the return of Hanuman from a distance, his team jumped with joy, while Jambavanta embraced him with tear-filled eyes. Angada and others looked at him anxiously to hear the news he had got from Lanka. After they knew about Sita and also of his accomplishments, they praised him endlessly and returned to Kishkinda at once. Though all the other teams returned without any news, Rama hoped to get some news from Hanuman. He anxiously waited for his team to return. Finally, after a long wait, Rama saw Hanuman returning along with his team. As soon as Hanuman reached Kishkinda, he went straight to Rama, touched his feet, and sought his blessings. Triumphantly, he informed, "My lord, I have seen Mother Sita." Taking out the ornament he brought along with him, he said, "Lord, Mother asked me to hand this over to you." Rama felt extremely happy hearing the news. Unable to contain himself, he embraced Hanuman and applauded his great work. After settling down, Hanuman narrated his experience in Lanka to Sugriva, Rama, Lakshmana, and others in detail. As they knew where Sita was, all of them decided to wage a war against Ravana at the earliest. Consulting the learned men of the kingdom, Sugriva fixed an auspicious day and started with a huge army to Lanka for the war that was to follow. Back at Lanka, Ravana sat dazed, wondering how a monkey could destroy his entire kingdom in a day. He summoned all his ministers and said, "The monkey now knows that Sita is here. He is sure to give the news to Rama and return with huge monkey army to wage a war against us. We have to quickly think of various ways to attack them." Hearing his words, instead of cautioning him, the ministers of his court nullified his fears and said that it was not a big task for a king like Ravana and his army to defeat monkeys and humans. As Ravana sat thinking, Vibhishana, who was also present in the court, stood up and said, "Brother, please do not ignore the damage one single monkey had caused to our kingdom. If one monkey could do this, just imagine what an army of monkeys can do to us. Moreover, Rama is not an ordinary man. As we are at fault, I request you to ask for Rama's forgiveness at least now." Irritated by Vibhishana's words, Ravana retorted, "How dare you talk to me in this manner? Don't you feel ashamed to speak high of an enemy? You do not deserve to be in Lanka anymore. Get out of my sight before I kill you." Worrying about his brother's arrogance and foolishness, Vibhishana silently left the court and reached Rama, who was on the other side of the sea. As he begged for Rama's mercy, Rama agreed to make him a part of his army. However, Sugriva was apprehensive about Vibhishana's inclusion in their team. Then Hanuman, who had witnessed Vibhishana's just behavior, convinced Sugriva that he was not a harmful man. During their conversation, Rama promised to make Vibhishana the king of Lanka. Surprised at his haste in declaring Vibhishana as the future king of Lanka, Sugriva expressed his doubt what Rama would do if Ravana too came begging for forgiveness. With an unaltered smile, Rama turned to Sugriva and said, "If ever Ravana came to me asking for pardon, then too I would stand on my word. I would make Vibhishana the king of Lanka and Ravana the king of Ayodhya." The entire army stood spellbound at his reply, and soon their silence broke into a roaring applause in appreciation of his magnanimity. Soon the army reached the sea. Rama ordered his men to build a bridge across the sea. Rama bowed to Samudra, the god of sea, and requested him to help him build a bridge over him. Though Rama prayed to him continuously for 3 days, there was no sight of the Samudra. Enraged by his indifference, Rama aimed an arrow at the sea to split him into two halves. Terrified by Rama's anger, Samudra appeared and asked forgiveness for his delay. He said, "Lord Rama, your arrow would destroy the entire life that exists in me. Please spare the creatures which are all none but your own creations." Rama cooled down with his plea and dismissed his idea of harming the sea. But once his arrow was aimed, it could not be taken back. As he stood there thinking of a solution, Samudra pointed out to a mountain and said, "Rama, that mountain is the only one that could bear the impact of your arrow. Please aim it towards the mountain." Following his instructions, Rama delivered his arrow towards the mountain, which broke into pieces immediately after his arrow hit it. Rocks and boulders rolled down the mountain endlessly. Samudra then asked Nala, the builder, to design a bridge on the sea and promised to keep the rocks afloat on the water. Thus, the bridge was soon ready and the army entered Lanka, passing through it. Soon Ravana received news that Rama was ready for the war. Though his grandfather Malyavanta tried to convince him to give up his intentions of war with Rama, Ravana paid no heed to his words. He summoned his army and passed orders to be prepared for the war. Meanwhile, following the rules of the war, Rama intended to send Angada as a messenger to Ravana to give him a last chance of retreat. Angada agreed to the proposal and went to meet Ravana. Standing in Ravana's court, Angada said, "O Ravana, I am Angada, son of Vali. I have come here as a messenger from Lord Rama, giving you a last chance to change your mind. Rama wanted me to find out if you would ask for pardon and respectfully return Mother Sita to him, or if you would like to lose your life for proceeding with the war." Laughing aloud and hearing Angada's words, Ravana replied that there was no chance of extending a friendly hand or seeking pardon from Rama. Boasting about himself and his army, Ravana ridiculed how a mere human could defeat him with the help of stupid monkeys. Enraged by his words, Angada replied, "O Ravana, you seem to be very anxious about the war. Well, look at your beautiful Lanka for the last time before coming to the war, because you would be soon dead in the hands of our Lord." Ravana immediately ordered his men to kill Angada at once. Standing fearlessly between the men, Angada laughed aloud and said, "First, try moving my leg. You can think of killing me later." Hearing his challenge, all the courtiers and guards went one by one to Angada to move his leg. He firmly planted to the ground. In spite of several trials, no one could move his leg in the least. Frustrated by his men's failure, Ravana impulsively descended his throne and tried to hold Angada's leg. Ridiculing him, Angada kicked off Ravana's crown by his leg and said, "Why do you want to hold my leg? If your life is sweet to you, then seek Lord Rama's pardon at once." Saying so, he flew away from the court and reached Rama's tent. As he narrated the entire episode, Rama decided that there was no other alternative except war. There was a fierce battle between both the armies. Sugriva, Hanuman, and Angada fought with all their might to kill the most important men of Ravana's army. Ravana was stunned to see the skillful attack of the monkey warriors. He could not understand how to tackle them. As soon as he sensed that the most powerful men of his army were dead, he ordered Meghanada to take charge of the war. Being a skillful warrior, Meghanada proved to be a tough fight to Angada and Lakshmana. Finally, when Angada killed Meghanada's chariot rider, unable to confront him, Meghanada resorted to magical tricks and attacked Rama and Lakshmana with Nagastra, because of which they lost their consciousness by being tied up by snakes. Thinking that they were dead, Meghanada triumphantly walked back to the palace to give his father the news. As both of them embraced each other out of happiness, they heard a loud sound of a bow, which was unmistakably Rama's bow. Surprised by the sound, both of them ran to see where it came from. Ravana and Meghanada were stunned to see Rama and Lakshmana back in the battlefield as usual. As they struggled to understand how they could be freed from the impact of Nagastra, they saw Garuda, the divine eagle, flying high in the sky. At once they understood that Garuda had come for their rescue. Maddened with anger, Ravana decided to wake up his another brother Kumbhakarna from sleep. Kumbhakarna was a huge man who ate for 6 months and slept for another 6 months in a year. With great difficulty, Kumbhakarna finally got up from his deep slumber. After he came to know of the war, he promised to help Ravana by all means. As he walked into the battlefield, Vibhishana stopped him and said, "Kumbhakarna, do not kill yourself by participating in this war. I have told this to Ravana, but he paid no attention to my words. At least you can convince him so that we can be spared." Replying to him, Kumbhakarna said, "Brother, I know that Ravana is wrong. I also know that Rama is not a mere human being, but the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. While you are fortunate to be on Rama's side, I love Ravana too much to desert him now. I would try my best to help him win this war, But even if I have to sacrifice my life, I would only be glad to be killed by Lord Rama. Saying so, he bid a tearful farewell to Vibhishana and proceeded towards the battlefield. As soon as he entered the battlefield with his huge personality, the monkey warriors were frightened. Many of them got crushed under his feet, while the others died with a blow of his hand. None in Rama's army could withstand the might of Kumbhakarna. Finally, Rama went ahead determined to end Kumbhakarna. Even Rama's weapons could not harm him. Finally, Rama used his most powerful weapon and chopped off the arms and legs of Kumbhakarna. As he fell to the ground and rolled in pain, many warriors fell under his weight and died instantaneously. Rama used another weapon that took Kumbhakarna away from the battlefield. Finally, Rama chopped his head with his arrow and sent it flying to Ravana's palace. As Ravana saw his brother's chopped head at his feet, he stood all alone, losing half his might. Ravana's fallback was only Meghanada. He summoned him and sent him to the war again. Meghanada was confident because he knew that only a man who had not eaten or slept continuously for 14 years could kill him. Confident that no such man existed, Meghanada went to the battlefield again, but soon he came to know of a man who could kill him. He was none other than Lakshmana. A fierce battle took place between Meghanada and Lakshmana. Both of them were equally skillful. As Meghanada fought with Lakshmana by being on his chariot, Lakshmana sat on the shoulders of Hanuman and continued his fight. Soon Lakshmana destroyed Meghanada's chariot. As he stood on the ground following the rules of the war, Lakshmana too descended from Hanuman's shoulders and fought with Meghanada. Finally, aiming an arrow at Meghanada, Lakshmana thought, if my brother Rama is an icon of justice and a man who had never lied throughout his life, then this arrow should kill Meghanada. Thinking of Rama, Lakshmana shot the arrow straight at Meghanada, which soon separated his face from his body. Thrilled by the sight, Rama at once reached Lakshmana and embraced him. He nursed his wounds affectionately amidst the floral rain from heaven. As soon as Ravana came to know of his son's death, he prepared for the past phase of the war and decided to face the brothers personally. The following morning, as he rushed towards Lakshmana, Rama stopped him in between and shot powerful arrows at Ravana. Both of them used their skills to stop each other's attack. Though Ravana's faces fell down shot by Rama's arrows, they fixed back automatically to their original positions. But from every drop of Ravana's blood that touched the ground, thousands of Rakshasas took birth. Meanwhile, Vibhishana and Lakshmana too joined Rama in his fight against Ravana. Reminded of Meghanada's death, Ravana immediately shot a powerful arrow at Lakshmana that made him unconscious instantaneously. Rama grieved for his beloved brother and sat there, shocked, looking at Lakshmana shedding tears. When no one could console him, Jambavanta came forward and said, Rama, Lakshmana is not dead. He fell unconscious due to the power of the weapon. He immediately called for Susena, the doctor. Examining Lakshmana, Susena said that he would be fine if a medicinal herb known as Sanjeevani could be brought for his treatment before dawn. As Rama turned to Hanuman in anticipation, he bowed to Rama and flew in the direction pointed out by Susena to get the herb. He flew swifter than ever and reached the mount where Sanjeevani grew. Unable to identify Sanjeevani among the herbs present there, Hanuman uprooted the entire mountain, placed it on his palm, and flew back towards Lanka. As soon as Susena picked up the herb and treated Lakshmana, he got up immediately as if he had risen from deep sleep. Rama's joy knew no bounds when he saw his beloved brother alive and healthy. The following day, Rama confronted Ravana with increased vigor. Indra sent a divine chariot for Rama from heaven, on which he ascended and fought with Ravana. But he was surprised to find that Ravana's heads reached their respective places even after being chopped off. As it continued for a while, finally Rama chanted the mantra, says Agastya taught him, and aimed his arrow at Ravana. With the impact of the mantra, the arrow rushed straight to his abdomen, where Ravana's life existed. Soon, with a loud cry, Ravana fell to the ground and breathed his last, while there was floral rain from heaven celebrating the end of Ravana. Rama's army danced out of joy. Mandodari, Ravana's wife, and our women of Lanka cried for Ravana while his army stood with their heads bowed down. Vibhishana stood shocked, looking at his dead brother, unable to control his grief. Sensing his emotions, Rama consoled the bereaved brother and arranged for the final rites of Ravana. Immediately, Vibhishana was made the king of Lanka, and Lakshmana crowned him the king, following Rama's orders.